All right, so just to start off, we have some speakers with us today, and we'll just start by introducing them or letting them introduce themselves. So to start off, we have Grace, and you can give a little bit about your name, your major, and the school you attend.
Hi, I'm Grace. I was in the Anza 2019 till 21, graduated from NYU. Earlier this year, I majored in math, minored in data science, and did another minor in finance that was hosted by the financial engineering department. And now I'm working as a software engineer for a German bank. Excited to be here. Oh, I was also involved with this club for 2 whole years when I was in the Anza. I was first secretary and then its president. Good to be back.
Yes, Grace is Math Club alumni. All right, we can go to Parky next. So again, like your name, major, and then the school you attend.
Hello, everyone. My name is Parky. I'm a CS major at UCLA right now. I transferred from the Anza this past year. I attended from 2021 to 2023. As far as academic stuff, I was part of Developers Guild at the Anza and Entrepreneurship and Technology Club, and part of the track team. And I was part of Student Athlete Advisory Committee.
All right, I think we'll go next to Mehul.
Hey everyone, my name is Mehul Jaiswal and I'm also CS major. I'm studying at UC Berkeley and I transferred from the Anza this year. I was at the Anza from 2021 to 2023. And for my extracurriculars, I was the VP of a club called ACM at the Anza. And I was also a senior maths and science tutor at MSRC Center.
All right, and we have two more speakers, I believe. So it'll be Michael and Ryan. So we'll start with Michael.
I'm Michael. I'm a math CS major at UC San Diego. Yeah, and I transferred out of De Anza and Foothill back in 2022. So I just finished my first year and I'm starting my second year here.
All right, great. And lastly, we have Ryan.
Hello guys, my name is Ryan and I'm a first year data theory major at UCLA. I transferred this past fall, so it's my first quarter. And in terms of extracurriculars, I wasn't that involved, but I did like tutoring on the side and I was involved in DECA. Yeah.
All right, so I think we'll go down the line and we have another question, which is more about the school you attend. So when you're going through the application process, how did you choose which schools you wanted to apply to initially?
So for context, I was born and raised in Indonesia. I wasn't planning to go to community college. I didn't even know it existed. So when I started in the Anza, I was really just, trying everything out and talking to everyone, trying to figure out what I'm doing exactly. And I got really close to this math professor who's also the coordinator of the honors program at that time. But now that he's the dean of PM at PSME, he no longer teaches. And the advice I gave me was really, really helpful. He said, if you are interested in working right after you graduate, then you should look into the career reports. Look at what the major that you're interested in work as right after graduation in terms of industry, in terms of job description or job title. But if you're looking into academia, then you should look into what the professors are researching about and also where students go to for their grad program afterwards. I was more interested in the finance side of things and I wanted to be a quant. So I chose NYU because I saw that the professors were involved in financial math and a lot of their students were ending up in finance in one way or another. So that's what I went with. And of course, you also need to look into the culture of the school and also the culture of the program to see if you would be a good fit. But yeah.
All right, and could you go into maybe how you chose to apply to NYU specifically?
Yeah, so I chose to apply to NYU just because of New York. I've always wanted to live in New York City. So apart from Berkeley, LA, San Diego, and Irvine, I applied to Stanford, Columbia, and NYU. Got rejected by Stanford and Columbia. So do not start your private apps on the day of the application. And NYU was my safety school in case I didn't get into Berkeley and LA. I got into Berkeley for applied math, got into LA for financial actuarial math. But then, coming across NYU and they have a really reputable math institute called Courant, and I just really, really, really wanted to live in New York. So I chose NYU instead.
All right. And I think we'll like cycle back, but we can just go down the line with like each person and how they chose to apply, how like they chose which schools to apply to, and then also how they chose specifically your school. So we can move on to Parky now.
So for me, I think when I was applying, one of the things I was looking for was specifically like job opportunities after graduation, but also academia opportunities at the university and how I could be involved. So I was mostly looking for in-state colleges because I feel like the transfer requirements were much clearer for in-state versus out of state. I found that a lot of the colleges I was looking at weren't willing to transfer a lot of my credits. So I would be behind by either a year, or I'd pretty much be like starting at the same point as someone who's been attending for like 2 quarters. So that's what I still applied to some of the out-of-state schools like U Chicago, but even if I knew that even if I got accepted, I probably wouldn't go just because of the credit limit. So as far as in-state and UCLA, I mostly chose it because this college has a very rich history when it comes to my major of computer science. It has a lot of connections as far as like professors, and also a lot of the professors here are very willing to be mentors and work as like recommenders for job positions or graduate schools. And I think that's what drove me to come here, is knowing that regardless of which path I chose after undergrad, I would have the support circle I needed to succeed.
All right. And moving on to Maple. If you could share a little bit.
Yeah, so I'm originally from India, so I'm like an international student, and I did not originally plan to come to like a community college like the Anza. But when I came over here, like I had a top school in my mind was like UC Berkeley where I got into, but I also wanted to look into a college which would also promote some startup culture and some academia as well, because I'm quite into startup culture, which UC Berkeley is quite known for the past 2 years being the top university where the startup grows. So I was looking at a university which has a good computer science degree and a good startup culture. That's why I chose UC Berkeley. And for the communities like which I applied to, I would say I applied to all the UCs. I got into every one except for UCLA. And I also applied to some private universities as well, like Stanford, CMU, but got rejected from most of them.
And Michael?
Yeah. How I chose my school was, I'm from California, so for like affordability reasons, I mostly applied to in-state programs like CSUs and UCs. I applied to a couple of like the better programs like CMU, but got rejected from them. Ultimately, I got accepted for pure mathematics at UC Santa Barbara, computational physics at Santa Cruz, and math CS at UCSD. And I really liked computer science, and I wanted to do it. And I knew that if I like basically, I talked to a friend at UC Santa Barbara, and I was like, hey, you're a pure math major, you love computer science, what's it like there? And he's like, dude, I can't get into any of these CS classes, they won't let me in. And so I knew that if I really wanted to do computer science and learn more, math CS at UCSD was probably my best shot at being able to take CS classes. And I have been able to take them. It's been pretty cool. So that's why I chose this major. UCSD, I didn't really know too much about it before I chose it. But this school is like, it really surprised me. Yeah, I mean, it's just an amazing campus, and we're like way higher ranked on computer science than I would have thought ever. Yeah, so I'm really happy with my choice.
Yeah, that's amazing. I think we'll ask like some more questions like later on also about like life after transferring and how you like now view the major that you transferred into. Yeah, so I think before that we can go to Ryan, if you can share a little bit.
Yeah, so I knew I wanted to apply to the UCs, so I did, but I also applied to a couple private schools, which were Emory, USC, and Cornell, because I liked their school culture, their values, or their programs. But ultimately, I chose UCLA because of it was mainly because of the data theory program, which is what I'm majoring in. It's like more theoretical than the typical data science programs that other universities offer. And because I want to delve into machine learning, the major is like specifically designed to prepare students in pursuing careers in machine learning or AI, which kind of appealed to me. Also, I placed a large emphasis on school culture, and I think the school culture at UCLA is really good. And they also have the best dining halls in the nation, and that's what I liked.
All right. I think we'll go to some like general questions now. So just to start off, if we can start with you, Grace, but you might have covered this a little bit, but could you go into like how you chose your major and also like how you chose which major you like applied to within the schools that you chose?
Well, I wanted to be a quant, and I was majoring in math, so I just wanted to get out of school quick enough. And I don't know, I think I randomly chose math majors for different schools. And when I got to NYU, I realized that I only needed to take 5 math classes to graduate. And I would still need to finish 64 semester units to graduate. So instead of spending money on random classes, I picked up a minor in data science and a minor in finance. And those are again related to the grad programs that I'm targeting for and also the career that I want after.
All right, and we can go to Parky. So how did you choose your major?
For me, I think it was more of like an enjoyment level. I like what I learn in terms of computer science. I like the sort of like the creativity aspect of it, where I'm not really limited in terms of what I can do with my skills. And I think so I applied as computer science as my first pick for all the UCs and CSUs, and computer engineering for my second pick for all the UCs. I didn't really care about whether I was learning hardware or software, as long as I got to throw in a mix of both of them. And I'm lucky that I got computer science here, because now I can really just like, even if I don't want to minor in computer engineering, I could still audit classes and take computer science and computer engineering classes together.
All right, Mehul.
So I've always been interested in the CS field, like since high school itself, and I was amazed by the AI and ML technologies. And when I got to the Anza, I actually talked to this guy from LinkedIn who was working at Google, who was like one of the main members of the BART formation. And when I was talking to him, he like explain to me how these AI models and LLM models, the machine learning models work. I was quite fascinated by this fact, and like I was quite into the CS field in the software category. So that's why I just chose CS as my major after talking to this guy from Google.
All right, and I think Michael is next. Or
So can you say the question one more time?
so I think the question was basically how did you choose which major you applied into? And I think you covered that a little bit, but if you could go a bit further.
Yeah, basically when I was applying for like the UCs and CSUs, I applied to a lot of CS programs and I applied to math programs. I love CS and math about equally, and so I wanted to do software for my career, but I did want to study mathematics. I chose Math CS at UCSD because it had a fairly high admit rate for transfers. For like, depending on the school you choose, the admit rate for like CS can go up or can go down depending on whether you're a transfer. So paying attention to the admit rates for different programs is really important, and that ultimately influenced my decision to apply for Math CS at UCSD. And I was ultimately right to choose it because yeah, the admit rate was a lot higher. I was able to get in.
All right, and Ryan?
Yeah, I also applied to different majors for different schools, but specifically for UCLA, I was deciding between data theory and stats and data science, but I ultimately chose data theory because of their higher placements into grad school and their machine learning oriented curriculum.
All right. I think we had a question in chat, and that kind of actually leads to the next question we had planned. So we wanted to ask a little bit about your experiences at De Anza. And I think what some people wanted to know was, did you guys have a chance to do internships like outside of De Anza campus? And I think they specifically are interested in like CS internships. And if any of you are like international students, if you could also cover like how, if you were able to get an internship or how that might relate to being an international student as well. So starting
I
with Grace
can.
again. Or sorry, Mehul, you can go ahead and then we'll go to the rest.
No, okay. I just have like a thing that because I'm an international, I know about the CS major. Getting an internship at the Anza as a community college is like quite difficult because I had gone once to a Google career fair and they told me specifically like until you transfer out of the Anza, we will probably not hire you as an intern. And once you have transferred from the Anza, then you can again apply. But the thing about this is there are some companies as well who will actually take you when you're from the Anza. Because I had this one friend who's called Tony. He was interning at Uber during his sophomore year at the Anza. And there are also some like great programs like SLI from Futil, which have like internship opportunities, which via Stanford and via some other companies, which work for both international and like domestic students as well. And if you go to like some very small companies, like they have startups from like 1 to 10 employees, they might also give you some internships.
All right. And did you have any like advice about how students can maybe find these opportunities? And I think someone's also asking like how, like I think you might have mentioned someone who's able to land an internship at Google, or was it Google or Uber? I'm not sure.
Uber.
But Uber. Okay. So I think they're asking like, do you know how he was able to land that? And if you have any advice for people?
I'm not exactly sure how he got to land. I'm also not sure if he's an international or domestic, but what I'm sure that he got to intern after he completed his coursework at the Anza and before starting at Berkeley. It's like it was like between those two summer gap years.
I'll interject real quick. I know Tony.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, he just said he applied for it was like the Star Academy, and he got an interview, and he said he just got like it was like a technical interview, and he just passed it and got the internship, and that was when he was before he went to Berkeley at De Anza.
Yeah.
So yeah,
That's actually true.
All right. And did any of the other speakers also have like advice on this or like personal experience about internships?
I would say that I didn't realize that internships were so important to getting a job, especially in the US, until I transferred to NYU. And I tried working part-time for the Math Museum in New York, and I had to get like so many different permissions, had to go through so many different departments to get my CPT approved, and that was really a pain. But I do know one guy who was international and he was interning throughout his time at the Anza, but I also know that he had a bunch of different projects. and he had like GitHub to prove it. And my guess is that he knew the correct people who have been interning when they were at the same stage as he was. And also just putting himself out there on LinkedIn. Because I think on LinkedIn, he did say that he applied to most, if not all, of his jobs through LinkedIn. Yeah, but generally, working as an international student outside of community college, pretty tough, especially in this market with like tech layoffs, even more tough. So do not be disappointed by yourself.
I think someone just
Yeah,
asked
I got my
to Grace.
CPT approved with math major because I was applying to be a part-time tour guide for a math museum. But even if I were to do a data job or like a software job, they would have sort of related it to math because I guess as long as you're STEM, they would sort of work it out with you. It doesn't have to be exactly what you're studying.
Mhm. And did any of the other speakers have any experience with this as well?
I wasn't an internship, but it was a part of the career training program at Adobe. I did that the summer after my freshman year. I will say that I see Jack's comment about the resume not passing the automated machine checking because you have community college on there. That is true, but I will say that the simplest way to bypass that is to probably target smaller companies that don't utilize that system. Because I feel like a common misconception is that you have to land a big internship your first go, and that's not really true. I think the big companies value it much more if you have a experience at a smaller company because you not only have the work experience, you also learn a lot more. You have a lot more roles to cover, and I feel like that is ultimately more helpful. So that'll be my advice: is to look into the smaller companies on LinkedIn and other job platforms.
All right, Michael or Ryan, did you have any advice or experience with like maybe internships while at De Anza or even like maybe after transferring?
Yeah, so as a first year, I was actually an econ major. So I had like a business operations internship at the startup. So I kind of talked to like in my college app essays, I talked about transitioning between econ to like more computer science related fields. So yeah, I honestly don't have much experience with internships in computer science. Yeah.
I didn't have an internship during De Anza. This past summer, I worked at a lab, a robotics lab. So that was pretty cool, but they didn't pay me anything.
I think also like another thing that is somewhat related is, did you guys have any experience with, for example, research or any advice to people that may be interested in that while at De Anza or maybe like after transferring?
I can go if no one else.
Sorry. Right now I just applied to some lab positions here at UCLA. I am looking into a marine robotics lab, I believe it's a computing lab where we redesign like base systems where computers can run on new base systems. And then I'm looking into the AI security labs. So I would say my advice would be cold email. Literally, a lot of the professors who do research have public websites that you can find, usually under their usually under college domains. So you can just Google up college domains that you're interested in, labs they have. They usually have their contact information on those websites, and then you can just email them. I would say CC some of the grad students that work under them, just because they tend to be very busy, the professors themselves, and the grad students can usually, if they like what they hear from you in the email, they can usually petition for you as well from the inside and get you a role.
I think Michael, did you have something that you wanted to say as well?
Yeah, that everything he said was a pretty good advice. The only other thing that maybe I would comment is I worked in a computer graphics lab for the past year. I've also been working at the robotics lab for multiple months. At the computer graphics lab, my advisor had never supervised undergraduates before. That working with him really sucked. Uh, uh, yeah, I'm not gonna sugarcoat that. So maybe when you're cold emailing professors, I don't know how much choice you have, but if you can see on their like lab websites if they have undergraduates, they've mentored them before, that is a really good sign. And if they don't, that's kind of a red flag. Yeah, I did not have a great experience. It was pretty hard to work with them.
All right. I think we have a couple more questions. We'll address the questions in chat as well as the. So I think one question we had for you guys is, what does the transfer community look like at your school? And like, are there opportunities any different for transfer students, or do you find that you have like ample resources after transferring?
I would say that NYU is so bad when it comes to transfer students. Not really community wise, but when I first transferred in, I wanted to get my classes transferred, and it was just so painful. And I was considered freshman standing for a whole year after I transferred. So it was also difficult to get the classes that I needed. But in terms of community wise, they do have like a cohort or like a community thing under the student government for transfer students that hosts events, but NYU transfer students aren't required to go through like a certain set of classes with like a bunch of people, as a cohort to help them settle into NYU itself. So in that regard, unless you're really, really into being with the transfer community, you are on your own. Yeah.
All right. I think other speakers may have different experiences because they're in different like school systems and everything. So Parky, I think you want to go ahead.
Over here, I think from my experience, there is a very good transfer community, and I think the resources are more leaning towards freshman applicants and freshman commits, but there are a fair bit of opportunities here for transfers as well. I think it's less advertised just because there's less transfer students who come in here every year, but it is still, you just have to like hunt around a little bit and get to know people in your major who are also transfers, and usually they will know someone who has resources available. Also professors, a lot of professors here, they are either transfer students or they know someone in the department who was a transfer student, and they can usually direct you in the right places to look for them.
All right. Did anyone else have anything to share about the transfer community at their campus?
I can share one thing. At Berkeley, there's like some buildings for the transfer, especially where you can go and do your work, like a small library or like a workstation. And also like weekly, there is some EECS transfer event where you can make new friends and meet new people who are also like pure transfer students. But and also like there are some classes which supports you to like when you transfer to UC Berkeley to take and make new friends. But I've never been to one, so I'm not sure about that.
All right. Anyone else? Michael or Ryan?
Yeah, just adding on to what Parky was saying earlier, I think the transfer community, I mean the UCLA supports their transfers. They even have a transfer center, which is designed specifically for transfers. I think they do academic counseling. They also do, yeah, just like academic counseling. They help them with their career. And I believe 35% of the school is transfers. So because we have such a big community, there are more resources that are allocated towards transfer students.
All right. I think we have many questions in chat. I see that Grace is also replying to some of your questions, so you guys can read that if you're able to. But I think one question that we got is, we'll get into more like your specific major and like classes transferring and stuff like a little bit later. But if you guys could go over what you guys mainly did outside of school. I believe the person was asking like while you were at De Anza. So maybe like your activities and then I think also there was one question for Grace specifically asking if the transfer process to NYU or other universities outside of California is different than California. So I think you can like briefly address that.
I'll address the NYU one in the comments so that we can answer the more general ones.
Mhm. All right, but I think we can
Oh,
go.
let me answer the what did we do outside of
Okay.
school? Sorry, my bad. I did not get to do much outside of school, but if outside of school also includes outside of classes, I was part of the student government. I started as a senator, and around April of my first year, I got promoted to the chair of finance. I was chair of finance up until the end of my time in Anza. And of course, through student government, I was also involved with shared governances, specifically the ones that were responsible for determining which classes get cut, which classes get expanded, which professors get tenure and which ones don't, anything that related to money. Mentioned earlier, the Anza Math Club was there also for my whole time in the Anza. I was involved with a Christian club called Christians on Campus, and that's the one that also got me connected to a community in NYU and even now here in Raleigh, North Carolina. I wrote papers for my honors program, and that's basically just all of the math classes that I was in, and also some econ classes. Yeah, that was mostly it. I couldn't do much as a minor that's also international. So that's what I did.
All right, if other speakers can go over like some of your experiences. And also just like one additional question, like, is there a resource or experience that you would recommend at De Anza, like from the ones that you have had experience with?
So at De Anza, I mostly just was part of school clubs. I didn't really do much outside of like the actual college community, but in terms of clubs, I was part of Developers Guild. I highly recommend that if you're a CS major, I would join that club. You do get a lot of exposure to different types of technologies used in computer science, especially machine learning. If you're interested, you do go really deep into that. Also Google Student Developers Guild, Developers Club, GDSC, I think. That's also a really good one. For networking, that's really good. I was part of Entrepreneurship and Technology Club. That was more of just like a personal interest of mine, just like exploring the intersection between business and technology and seeing how what I learn could potentially have implications in the corporate world. That was the extent of what I did at De Anza. Over here, I'm doing other things. Mostly like I'm looking more into the CS clubs right now at UCLA. I'm part of ACM. I'm part of the cybersecurity branch at ACM, looking into career opportunities and skills required for like embedded systems and security engineers. That was my experience so far. I'm probably gonna add to that list as my time goes on here, but that's me so far.
If anyone else wants to share, I think Mehul.
So for me, I was the vice president of a club which me and my friend founded, which is called ACM at De Anza, where like we held workshops and transfer panels and career panels like this one. And I actually was the one who was also holding workshops teaching new students how to create websites and web development. And I was also a senior maths and science tutor at the MSRC Center, And along with that, I was also a TA for a professor. His name was Felix Amurvo, and I was a TA for him for class 36A. And during the summer, I was also a tutor for the CIS department. And apart from that, I was also involved in some other clubs. As Parky said, I also involved in GDSC and Developers Guild. Was had quite some friends over there.
All right, Michael or Ryan, if you want to share, and then I think we'll get to some other questions right after.
Yeah. For me, I did community college through my high school, and I was only at the Anza for like 1 year after that. But during that year, I had a job where I was a substitute teacher at like a middle school, teaching like robotics class to kids. And then I was also a member of the Foothill Computer Science Club. I went to a lot of the Foothill like SLI events, like for leadership and stuff. Yeah, that's pretty much it. And then I also occasionally at Foothill there will be a class called Independent Study in like reinforcement learning and robotics, and I took that, and that was pretty cool. I got to talk about that on my application.
All right, Ryan.
Yeah, so at the Anza, I wasn't that involved in I'm sorry, Parky's my roommate. So yeah, I was saying like at the end, I wasn't that involved in school related extracurriculars, but I did tutoring on the side. I also had in 2 internships, one as a research analyst intern and one as a business operations intern, which weren't related to CS, but I think they gave me like valuable experience in the field. And yeah, that's about it. I was also involved in DECA and Circle K, which is this volunteering organization.
All right. I think we have many questions in chat, but the speakers are also like replying to many of them. So if you sent questions in chat, just double check if somebody already replied. I think next we'll probably be asking about specifically after transferring, what did the course like or credit transfer look like? Did you experience any like obstacles? I know Grace spoke about that a little bit, but for everyone else as well, did you meet any obstacles with credit transfer?
I had some issues transferring. I think some of the CS classes at the Enza are structured differently from here at UCLA. So like, for example, there's a data structures and algorithms class at the Enza, and over at UCLA here, they are separated into 2 separate classes. Each one goes into, I think the algorithms class goes way more into depth than it does at the Enza. So they transferred my data structures class separately, and my algorithms class didn't transfer, or the algorithm section of that class. So I have to take care of that and retake that algorithm section here, either next quarter or the quarter after. As far as I can tell, that's the only class where I had some issues with transferring credit. The other ones all transferred. I will say for the classes that aren't articulated, you can take them at a different college. And if you choose not to, they're not gonna rescind you or deny you admission as long as you have the majority of the requirements completed.
All right, did anyone else have any like experiences with that?
So at Berkeley, there is a course called CS61B, which is basically data structures course, and we have a similar course at the Anza called CIS22C, which is data structures and algorithms, but it doesn't completely transfer when you come to Berkeley. You need to take a bridge course called CS47B to get the credit, or just take the entire course CS61B altogether again to actually pass that class. And I would say it's better to take the class again because the depth level the Berkeley has in that class for data structures itself is almost 50% more than what was taught at the Anza.
I can talk some.
You can go, yeah.
Oh. Go for it.
Okay, sure. So like with data theory, since it's a relatively new major, I believe it started in 2019 or 2020. There's a lot of classes that are really unique and aren't offered at community college. Like I believe it was like introduction to mathematical modeling, like courses like these, data technologies for Python. So yeah, I had to take three pre-major classes, and also for this is like related to AP credit. Make sure you check the requirements for AP credit for each specific school, because I got a 4 on the AP Calc AB exam and UCLA didn't take that. So I had to email them to clear it, but luckily the math department cleared it because I took the other classes that followed.
Michael, you can go next. And also, I think Mehul's Colin is asking you in chat about like what was the name of the class. So if you could just reply to him.
Yeah, I had a lot of the same issues. For instance, like CIS 22C, I took the entire like Java sequence at the Anza and the advanced Java course. When I transferred to UCSD, if you like look at the assist, I'm sure all of you know about it, but assist.org has the like transfer equivalencies. If you look at the assist page, it doesn't like get everything. And what you need to understand is that the assist page is infrequently updated. The equivalencies are infrequently updated, and they're not like the final like word. So if you like look at some course and you say, okay, I can get credit for that, you just need to make sure that the content covered in the course is very similar to like at least some combination of courses you took into community college. And so by doing that, I was able to successfully argue for basically the entire Java sequence at UCSD to be exempted from that. Although for other things it doesn't work, right? Because at the end for the C class equivalency, you need the Anza x86 and the Anza C class. And unfortunately, I couldn't transfer that because I didn't know C, even though I did know systems programming. So that was something that I did have to do. The other thing was at Anza, there's a discrete mathematics class. I don't know if he even teaches at Anza anymore, but I took it with Reza Shariat Madari, I believe is how you pronounce his name. Anyway, when I transferred it to UCSD, it's called discrete mathematics. And on the transfer equivalency, it says, okay, you get a credit for discrete mathematics at UCSD. However, if you're a math major at UCSD, you don't want discrete mathematics. You want Math 109, which is basically our intro to proof class. So Math 109 satisfies discrete mathematics for most UCSD things, but not the other way around. However, when I took it with Reza at De Anza, looking at the content of the course, I was like, okay, he did not mention a computer a single time the entire time he was teaching this class. This is a math class, and he just went over how to prove stuff. So I had to really talk to the math department. I talked to a math counselor, and they said, no, that's not possible. And I was like, I'm going to submit the request anyway and ignore your advice. And I submitted it anyway, and I argued my case, and I got it exempted. So I don't know. If it doesn't cost you anything, ignore the counselor's advice because sometimes they don't know what they're talking about. And yeah, the assist equivalencies are not always the final answer. Just make sure you look at the content of the class. And if you think you know the content, then you should definitely try and petition. That's everything.
And Grace, did you have anything to add about this? I know you already spoke about it earlier, but
Well, what specifically?
about the credit transfer and any advice you have.
Yeah, like what Michael was just saying, if it doesn't hurt, just be persistent about it. Ask different people. It took me a whole year to get my accounting 1A and 1B class for Indiana transferred for my minor in finance. And because of a system glitch, they took my CIS 22A as my intro to programming class. So, yeah, just email a lot of people, annoy a lot of people until you've exhausted all of your options. And don't give up.
All right. I think there was a question for Ryan in the chat, if you want to answer that. But we have a couple remaining questions to ask you guys. Give me one. I think one question we had was about like scholarships available for transfer students. So if any of you guys have experience with those, if you could share a little bit.
Are these like scholarships while you're at the Anza, or are they scholarships after you transfer?
I guess either, like just applying for scholarships if you have experience with that, and like any advice you would have for students.
Yeah. At the Anza, I think as part of the track team, I think my coach did much of the work for me. He kind of just like handed out resources every now and then. He was like, here's a portal. I forgot what it's called, but there's a portal where you can apply for scholarships hosted by like various foundations. I did a lot of those. They were mostly for like underrepresented groups, and some of them did apply to me, but most of them didn't. As far as after you transfer, or like while you're applying for transfer, there's at least on the UC app, I know that there's a bunch of scholarships that you can get. I think there's a huge list of them while you like at the very end of your application. You can like I would say just look through every single one of them. Some of them do stand out immediately, but some of them might be a little vague. And in that case, I would say email email people from there's like contact form, contact desk. You can contact them, ask them for clarification. And even after you transfer, I think most of the institutions, like here at UCLA too, they released like a month before the fall quarter started, they released information about new scholarships that you could apply to that would be distributed following the winter quarter. So look out for those. Yeah, just there's also external scholarships that you can find. I'm sure like there's like famous ones like Coca-Cola, all these different scholarships they could apply to.
Did anyone else have any advice on this?
Yeah, so at the answer, there's like the portal that Parky was mentioning. It's about like academic works where it takes the application and like write some general application and apply to the common applications you have, and some require some like recommendations. And I asked my tutoring supervisor to write recommendation letters for me, and I got, I guess, 2 scholarships at the end. And at Berkeley, I did not get any scholarship because as an international, Berkeley doesn't give many scholarships to international students. But when I got accepted to Santa Barbara, then I was given a scholarship of like 20K for 2 years when they sent the admission offer. So yeah, there are scholarships, but like it's rare.
As a previous chair of finance of the DSG, I would like to say that of all of the scholarships available for the Anza students, only 30 to 40% actually get granted. Like there is so much money being offered to the Anza students, but students just don't know they exist. So if you want to mass apply to scholarships while in the Anza, some of them would even give you the money even after you've graduated from the Anza. So make use of that. But NYU wise, I think like a lot of private schools, they would specify that they would not give scholarships for transfer students just because they assume that you have a very, very good reason to want to transfer to NYU, and you are going up against people who are not transferring in from community college. So other than FAFSA and financial aid from the government, you would not be able to get that. International students, you'd be surprised at how many Anza scholarships are actually open to international students. Just fine, just scrape through them.
Did anyone else have anything to add? Right, I think if that was all we had to add on this question, we'll just like finish off with like one or two more questions. This is like a really quick one, but like after transferring to your respective schools, like, do you think there's like a possibility, for example, for switching majors? Like, is that an option at your school? And have you like, what experience do you have with that?
Yeah, definitely. I also didn't know this because I wasn't planning to be in the US. But I think for a lot of schools, as long as you are in the college what that hosts the major that you are in or that you apply to and the major that you want to declare, it wouldn't be such a problem. So NYU Math is hosted by the College of Arts and Science, which is equivalent to Letters and Science or Arts and Science in other schools. But if I were to switch to applied math that was hosted by the engineering school, then I would have to apply for internal, like an internal transfer. I'd have to go through like a whole transfer admissions process again against other NYU students who want to do that. But if I got in as a math major and I decided, you know what, I don't feel like doing that anymore, I can just declare as a computer science major and I can even declare a second major. That's my impression of most schools, but maybe I'm wrong.
All right, did anyone else have any advice or like information on this? Like whether you can switch majors, the difficulty of
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know at UCLA, like you can pretty much switch into any major in the College of Letters and Sciences. So similar to what Grace was saying. But like if I wanted to switch into computer science, for example, I wouldn't be able to do that because they're in the School of Engineering. So I think it really depends. But also I know that for UC Berkeley, like their data science and computer science majors, even though they're in the College of Letters and Sciences, you can't switch into them because they're like high in demand or restricted.
I'd like to add on to that. So there's a change in UC Berkeley system. So they're actually creating a new college called CDSS, which is Computing Data Science Society. And they're shifting the three majors, computer science, data science, and statistics to the new college. And for this year, like if you're like getting into CS major or like DS major and you want to transfer to CS major, this is the last year the students can do, because from the next year what they are doing is who is getting accepted, they are going in as declared major as CS or DS, and before it was like undeclared major. And after you get in, you can't transfer to CS majors, and they're actually decreasing the number of seats they have for CS major because of the high competition that they have.
and just to clarify, when you say like that this is the last year, you mean for people that have already transferred or people who are like applying now for transfer?
Who have already transferred. So like who is transferring the next year, if they want to get into CS, they must apply to CS. If you don't apply to CS, then you might not be able to shift your major to CS like students used to do like 2 to 3 years back.
Did anyone else have any experience on this, Michael, or?
I could talk about it. Yeah, so at UCSD, if you're not like a cap major, i.e. not engineering, switching majors is not that hard. However, within the engineering and like the math or engineering and every single other thing, it's pretty difficult. So I'm math CS. So I can't, okay, so I can't, how does it work? Okay, so if you're an engineering major, you can switch to pretty much any other engineering major unless it's like computer science, unless it has the word computer in it. So if you're a mechie, you can switch into aerospace, you can switch into electrical. You can't switch into electrical and computer engineering. That's shut off. As a math CS major, I can go into the engineering majors, but it's based on like ranking, and they do a lottery system. So if you're outside of engineering, it's very difficult to get into engineering. But you know, within the math majors, it's not a big deal. This is especially pertinent to me because you know I have maybe I'm gonna finish up this math CS degree in 3 years, and I was like, okay, well maybe I'll do a double major. You know, I'd like to do computer engineering, but it's impossible. So I'll probably do electrical engineering instead. Yeah, but basically, yeah, it's very important what department you go into, because generally you're restricted within that department. And if you don't go in as an engineering major, you should not like plan your future based on the like that you'll be able to switch into it, because at UCSD that's not possible. I see people like posting on Reddit, they're like, "Oh, I came in as a transfer. How do I get into engineering?" And I'm like, "Bro, I'm sorry." Yeah, pretty difficult for engineering.
All right, I think we're like almost at closing time, so we'll just ask like a final question to everyone. Which is like, is there anything that was kind of unexpected after transferring? Maybe specifically about your major, like the rigor of the classes, or like fundamentals that you wish you kind of like developed more like earlier. So is there any like advice you would give on that subject, or like something that surprised you maybe?
Such a clown answer because this is hosted by the Math Club and the Integral Association. But I went into math not thinking far of what I was going to do. I just liked the math that I was doing at the end. So, because all you're doing is just like calculating, right? All you're doing is putting numbers in and moving things around. And my first class at NYU was this Weeder class, and it was real analysis. And I realized that real analysis is a class that basically all math majors take. And it was completely proof-based, almost no numbers at all. And I cried because I went through discrete math wondering when will I ever use this. And I realized that I should have taken discrete math more seriously, because that was like the basis of proofing, I guess. And real analysis and all of the classes after that in NYU were just proof-based. So if you're interested in a pure math major and you do not know that you will be doing proofs for the rest of your degree, maybe reconsider that. Yeah.
Did anyone else have any advice on this?
Yeah, I also want to add on, because since data theory is a collaboration between the math department and the data science department, I also have to take upper div math classes. And I also agree, like I think discrete math has really helped me with upper div linear algebra, which I'm taking right now. And yeah, the classes here are just hard. Like it's a huge jump between community college to like a 4-year. And I think you probably have to change your study habits from De Anza, which is something I found out the hard way. You probably have to give something up. Like if you have a hobby, like for me, it was playing video games, just give that up. Like it's better to just focus on school and like internships and stuff.
I actually agree to Ryan a lot because the level of classes that is at Duane and the level of classes at Berkeley is way too different. It's almost like 10 times difficulty level. And like to and there's no specific grade you get. The classes are graded on a curve. So basically how well you are doing with respect to how others are doing will give you a better grade. And if you're doing poor than the mean of the class, then you're basically failing the class.
Yeah, I will say that from my experience here, the level of difficulty is way harder, but also there's a huge disconnect between what you learn in class and how you apply it on homework and tests. There's a massive disconnect. I think part of the reason, I like to think this myself, but I think part of the reason why CS majors who graduate from here are so good is because they learn to apply very abstract concepts in practical scenarios. I think that's part of the reason why this is such a renowned college for CS. But also, I will say study habits are a huge plus here. Good study habits will get you very far in this college. Also, you will encounter some professors who refuse to go against the system and they will not grade on a curve. My professor does that, and it's pretty rough. So just be prepared for that. Understand that what you experience in community college is not representative of what you're gonna go through in the next 2 years after you transfer, and you have to just be mentally ready for that jump. I wish I was ready for that in the summer after I transferred, but there's still time for me, so I'm gonna get through it now.
Michael or anyone else?
Yeah, I can talk about it a little. Yeah, when I applied for Math CS, I was like, oh, you know, Math CS, it's gonna be like 50-50 Math CS. But I was wrong. This is a math degree with like I do the core CS courses as well. It wasn't what I was really expecting out of UCSD, but I definitely don't regret it. But I wouldn't apply to Math CS if you don't like doing proofs because that's all upper division math classes are. Luckily, I had a really great teacher at the Anza for discrete math, so my degree has been going well so far. But yeah, it's definitely like if you're a math person but you want to go more towards the CS route when you're choosing your major, you should definitely look at the graduation requirements in terms of like classes. And if it's mostly upper div math classes, then you're going to be writing a lot of proofs. But if it's more CS classes, then you're going to get more CS. So just check that out when you're picking your majors at various schools.
All right, I think that's all the questions we have, and this is already like over time. But if any of the speakers, if you would be okay with sending like contact information in the chat, like any place where people could reach you maybe, or even like your LinkedIn's or something, like whatever would be best to contact you through. And like to the answers, like the questions that were unanswered in chat or like people replied, we copied that. So we'll try to send out like a link to something where you can view like the answers to your questions and then just like review that. Right, so if you guys want to like contact the speakers, there is their contact information in the chat. But that'll be the end of our transfer panel for today. And if you have any like further questions, you can always like reach out, maybe to them, or also like if you have questions for like the math club people, I guess you can also message us and we'll try to help you out. All right, thank you to everyone, and also thank you to the speakers for helping us out.
Hello, guys.
Bye-bye.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Bye.
Thank you guys.
Bye.